Hello and welcome back. In this video, I would like to help you write your statement for your application for asylum or withholding of removal. As I have said in the video where I actually explained how to fill out the application for the asylum, um, statement is one of the most important things. It is extremely important because what you write in that statement, it's the whole case basically. You present the case to an immigration officer showing why you should be granted asylum. And based on what you write in that statement, this is how your your asylum interview is gonna go, and obviously the questions that will follow on the interview, and all of these things. Now, there is really no definitive format out there that is set in place to show you exactly how and what you need to write. Basically, the way Immigration Services explains it is just a 1-2 page written statement where you explain why you're eligible for the asylum. But if you remember in the video where I explained the application process, I said that preferably the statement should be 3 to 4 pages in a regular format and in a regular page. So let's start from the very beginning, and I will try to explain as many things as I can in this video, and give you as much detail as possible. But if I do miss something, don't hesitate to ask me in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer them and help you as much as I can. So let's start from the very beginning. The format of the statement is recommended. I personally recommend you to write it in a regular essay format, which is introduction, body, and conclusion. So we have introduction, we have the main body, and we have the conclusion. What it does, it really creates it's just a basic general essay format. It creates that structure. It makes it easy for you to write it. It makes it easy for the immigration officer to read it, to follow through it. It just makes things easier for everyone. So we have introduction. Let's start from the introduction. What you need to provide an introduction. Basically, you provide all your basic information. You say your name, your date of birth, place of birth. If that is important in your statement, for example, if you are applying for an asylum based on the persecution for religious beliefs, obviously you need to state in the introduction that you are of certain religion and how long you have been of that religion. Basically, you're introducing yourself. All of these facts about yourself that are important, that you're going to be following up later in the body of the statement. So, an example, it would be like, I, John Doe, can type and be on the mic at the same time, born on, January 1st, 1980, in, whatever city. I don't think that's a real one. And, like I said, introduction. Really nothing too complicated. You're just writing about yourself. If you're claiming asylum for both you and your spouse, obviously you're gonna, in the introduction, you're gonna mention when you met her, when did you get married, all of those things. Don't be afraid to make it as detailed as possible. There's nothing wrong. It's better to provide something that is extra. And I know this is not what the immigration lawyer would tell you, but here's the thing. Whenever it comes to working with immigration lawyer, it's sort of working with, devil's advocate almost like. because they are trying to hide the facts that they think that the immigration officer can catch on. I don't think it's a good strategy to go about it this way. You are putting everything on the line. This is very important. You have to be as truthful, as honest as possible. So you have to give all of the details. Because if something comes up on the interview that you did not mention in the statement, that is already a reason for your immigration officer to suspect that you're hiding something, that you're lying about something. You get the point. So be as truthful as possible. Um, yeah, basically this is it in the introduction, and then you kind of lead the introduction, to the main body. So you start telling about your story. You start uh, explaining why you are eligible for asylum, why you're persecuted based on either religion or political party affiliation. There can be a few of those aspects. So you have to explain that persecution. Start from the very beginning. Explain how you were before you were persecuted. Explain when you first noticed that persecution. How? What happened? Was that physical violence? Was that, harassment? Was that some sort of, verbal abuse? Were you stalked? Did you call police? Did you report that? What happened later? Explain all of these things in detail. And this is what you do in the body of the statement. You explain all of these, um, you know, events in chronological order. So in the introduction, you introduce yourself, and then in the body, you start presenting all of these events in the chronological order. So you start from, before you were persecuted. And then the first event, when you noticed persecution, second event, and then third, and then you call the police, and then police replied that way, then you filed with a persecutor replied that way, and then in the chronological order to make it easier. Uh, this is gonna be your body. Now, after you're done with your body, after you're done explaining your story, this body is gonna be the most of the statement. You will go into the conclusion, and then the conclusion is where you will basically wrap it all up, and you will explain. So, because of all of this that you mentioned in the body, you are claiming the asylum, and you're asking for, United States Immigration Services to grant you the asylum, and, all of these things. You're hoping for their consideration and all of these things. You basically conclude everything you have said in the body and the introduction in the conclusion. Now let's go back a little bit into the body. Now, this is where you will be also referring the immigration officer to the evidence that you will be providing. Now, hopefully you do have some evidence. It's very important. For example, one event when you notice persecution. Is there any evidence of that? It can be pictures. It can be police report. It can be, a witness affidavit. So let's say your neighbor, he saw the guy who was stalking you and running away. You can ask him to write a witness affidavit. So if you do have evidence to every, not to every, but to whatever event that you're mentioning in the body, you have to specify it here, and it's going to be something like Exhibit A, for example. This is the first event that happened, blah blah blah. You have the evidence showing that this event really did happen, and Exhibit A, it means that later, after the statement ends, you're gonna have an Exhibit A. Oops. Kind of like so, attached to the statement. So you're making it easier for the immigration officer to go through your statement and kind of refer to all of that evidence. Because think about it, you can write the whole statement, and then you can attach all the evidence, but immigration officer, he will have to, or she will have to, go through all of that evidence and try to link it to all these events in the body. It can get pretty complicated. So if you do this, on January 1st, 2000 and blah blah blah, I was attacked on the street, I filed a police report, and then exhibit A, or you can say see attached police report to make it even clearer in exhibit A, and then the police, the immigration officer, whoever is reading it, they can be like, okay, let me quickly take a look, without even going through the rest of the body to kind of understand things. Just refer to that to make sure that whatever you're saying, just to reconfirm it for himself or herself. Go down, exhibit A, okay, open up exhibit A, and the police report is there, nice and clear. And so forth for all of the statements. Second event, if you have evidence, exhibit B, and so forth. You get the point. Now, if you do not have evidence for certain events, it doesn't mean that you should not mention them. It is okay to mention them and not have evidence. It is understandable that certain things will not have evidence. Now, another thing regarding evidence I wanted to mention, I have said that in the application procedure, and I want to mention it again because it's very important. There are two different types of evidence. There is an evidence that applies specifically to you, like, for example, event, when you notice persecution, blah, blah, blah. For example, you were attacked, right? And then you filed a police report. This is your police report. This is your evidence related to you, to your case. But there's also evidence that is, in general, shows that things like this happen in your country, in your area, whatever you are. So here's an example. Let's say you are applying for the asylum based on persecution, based on religious beliefs, right? Let's say, just for the purpose of this case, majority of the country are, of one religion, let's say, for example, Christians, and you're Muslim and you're being persecuted for being a Muslim, okay? So this is, for example, one event where you were attacked on the street, you filed a police report, your evidence, right? And then event B, second event, exhibit B, the same thing, something that is related to you. But then you can also say that there was an event which is similar to yours where some Muslim guy was persecuted kind of similar, the same way to yours, and there is an actual news article, and then you can say exhibit B, exhibit C actually, because we already have B, is that newspaper attached that shows that event that happened to another Muslim guy that was persecuted. So you are showing a similar case to yours, and you're saying that you're not an exclusion, that things like this happen. It's also very important to give those in your statement as well, if they are the case, if there are similar cases, because it actually shows to the immigration officer that, this is things like this happen. If things like this happened to this guy and it was in the newspaper, then all of this obviously possibly can be true, because if this happened, all of this might happen as well. Okay, very important. So you see, it's a completely different type of evidence, but you can include that, and I definitely do recommend including that. So it's not just going to be your case, but it's also going to be your research on things like this that happened in your area, in your country, where you are coming from. Okay, so this is what I wanted to mention in the body, in the evidence. Already spoke about the conclusion and introduction, so I hope this is clear. If you have any questions, let me know. Quickly, I wanted to go over a few things, a few points whenever it comes to the statement that are very, very important. Number one, it is your statement. It's your statement, and what I mean by that is you have to write it. There are services out there that help you write the statement. There are some immigration attorneys that write the statement for you. This is not right, not good, not honest. Uh, why is it not right? Obviously, because it is not honest. You're not, you're not being truthful. But it is also not good. Why? Because you are the one who will be talking to the immigration officer, not your attorney. So the questions that the immigration officer is going to have based on the statement is going to be directed at you, and they are going to be based on the statement. And if someone else wrote this for you, obviously you see how it makes much harder to answer those questions when you didn't write the statement. So definitely write the statement, make it as truthful as possible. Make sure it is your statement written by you. Number two, very important point. Make sure that your statement is detailed. Now I mentioned it many times already, but I just want to make sure that I stress enough how important it is to make the statement as detailed as possible. Describe every single detail. Let's say first event when you noticed persecution. When was it? What time was it? Where were you? How did you notice? How did you feel about it? Describe everything in detail, the situation. You saw the guy in a dark alley who was wearing a hood that was very dark. He looked very big and all of these things. And then you got scared, you ran, you came home, you called the police, and then the next day you noticed that guy again. All of these things in very, very detail. Because these are the things, like I've said in the application video, these are the things that show that you really lived through it. Because the person who did not live through it, they're just not going to have these details. So make it as detailed as possible. And then number three, make sure that every detail that you put in your statement can be explained to the best of your knowledge. Meaning that if you describe this one statement, this one event in your statement, and the immigration officer has whatever question about it, that you can answer this question to the best of your knowledge. And that's really all that matters. If you really don't know something, just say, I really don't know. It's fine. Because, have you seen his face? No, I haven't seen his face. Just be honest. But make sure that you can explain those things, so that's another reason why I say that the statement has to be detailed, is because when you actually make that detailed, there are not so many questions left there to ask. There is no wondering about this event by the immigration officer and saying, when did this happen? How did this happen? Why did you think that you're being persecuted? Why did you think that you're being followed, for example? If you explain all of these details in the statement. Okay, and the fourth one, of course, is the evidence. Try to find the evidence for every event, every fact that you provide in your statement. But again, like I said, if you can't, it's completely normal, it's understandable. Make sure you use both of types of evidence, your personal evidence and also the external evidence that is of similar cases of what's going on, of the reports. For example, world organizations. There is I will find a few, and I will include the links in the description below. Basically, what they do is they make the reports on countries, and they sometimes provide the reports on things like discrimination based on religious beliefs, based on certain political, affiliations and stuff like that. They provide those reports, and these are also something that you can include in your statement as that evidence showing that yes, things like this happen in in this country. And then number 5, the last one is, keep it structured. It's very important. Make it easy for you to write it, and make it easy for the immigration officer to read it. Another thing before I finish this video, I wanted to mention the translation. It is okay to write the statement in your language originally if you need to write it, and then hire a translator. Things like this usually cost somewhere between $40 and more per page to translate, so they can be pretty expensive. But like I've mentioned in the previous video, you can find a friend of yours or whoever who knows the both languages, your native language and then English, and he or she can translate it for you and then certify it for you. It is okay. They can do that. It doesn't have to be a professional translator or whatever. Just make sure that the translation is certified and notarized. And that's really it. Make sure to subscribe. I will have more videos. If you have any questions, any requests, whenever it comes to whatever procedure in immigration, just let me know in the comments below, and I will be happy to help you out. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.